I was talking to a person who's I think she's fairly well known in terms of websites and building sites. And what she told me is that she believes that companies need to start looking at their sites now, like this quarter ASAP, and look at your website and start prepping it for the LLM. So if you need to update pages, you have to incorporate more of these question answers. You need to get the content LLM friendly. Do it now because she says that in like 6 months to a year, everything's going to, the LLMs are going to change again. So getting in early and having your content prepped is great because things will shift again in terms of how the LLMs are grabbing all this content.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing Podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. I also run an agency, Did It, a brand, a nonprofit, and an incubator. So I keep myself pretty busy with all things marketing mad scientist like. Super excited to be chatting today with Sherry Prescott-Willis, who has spent a big chunk of her career involved in demand gen for B2B companies and SaaS companies, and really helping run the marketing engines for these types of companies. So let's jump into another area that you're active in is fractionalizing yourself, right? It used to be that, even startups would have a full-time CMO or full-time any C-suite role. And increasingly, we're seeing folks in your role fractionalizing themselves, but we've also seen even job ads where they're advertising for fractional, which I think is somewhat new. So is that the new normal within certain industries that the fractional CMO for either budgetary reasons or other reasons replaces the full-time CMO?
Well, it's a great question. And thanks for having me, by the way, Kevin. I'm happy to be here. I think, is it the new normal? In my network, it seems to be there are a lot of CMOs that are stepping into fractional in between going into committing to a full time. And I think it's good for them and it's good for the company, sort of try before you buy. But I think it also shows that the CMO's tenure is shortening. I feel like in some of and you may have read this too. I think the average time for a CMO to be at a company is about 24 months right now, which is not a long time to get things moving and then ramp and go. So if it's getting shorter, I think it does make sense for someone to go in fractional, right? And sort of figure out, okay, these are the things you need. I'm going to build XYZ and then see if this ramps and then get you to a certain point. And then at that point, we can decide if I'm going to go in-house or not. Um, but I do think some companies are, like you said, there's the budget and then there's the volume of CMO opportunities and there's not a ton of them, right? It's hard, it's hard right now in this market. So I think it gives the CMO and the company a chance to get to, for both of them to get to know each other and also try to accomplish a few things along the way.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that made an idea pop into my head, which I'd love your point of view on, which is, my team at Did It does a fair amount of work with private equity owned companies, right? And so sometimes they're more hesitant to invest in things that have a longer time horizon because they're thinking of flipping the company in 2 or 3 years, right? So, for example,
Exactly.
SEO and now generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization, there's no guarantees, right? So you do your investment, you sort of feel like you should be doing it, but you're not exactly sure what you're going to get in for every dollar you put into that from an HR perspective or from a content creation perspective. And I'm wondering whether CMOs individually also have this sort of focus on things that will move the needle in 6 months to a year because they know that that will increase their tenure, right? Whereas things that are longer term investments, may not manifest, the KPIs that they're being held to. And as a result, they're sort of under investing in earned media, in SEO, in GEO, in PR, all those things that are not that require longer time. Branding, even, right? You could say that takes longer times to manifest.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's an interesting topic. I think, well, most CMOs go in and then there's a specific, um, there is a revenue target, a pipeline target that they're trying to reach for a group of investors or a board. But I mean, you make a good point about if you're only there 24 months, how much are you going to be able to do? I think this is where AI can come in and help, though, right? Because if you and I belong to a few networks, and I know a lot of them are, one of them in particular is really trying to upskill CMOs, heads of marketing, demand gen folks, and really kind of get them to everyone at the same playing field and say, here's the tools that you should be using, and here's how you're going to improve your workflows. So I think that's happening right now. Everyone's upskilling like crazy and trying to understand which tool should I use. So that's going on. But I think you can use some of these tools to help you accelerate the things that you're trying to do. How am I going to accelerate my pipeline for, I'm throwing out for North America in the next 3 quarters? And so I think that's part of the challenges, these fractional people that are coming in, that, the board or the CEO says, I need some tangible results in these few quarters. And you're right, branding and NPR, some of those things are a little bit harder, a longer, you need more time. Things that you could do in a quarter would be a short campaign, like a digital campaign. I'm not talking like a huge, large, you know, $3 million corporate campaign. I'm talking about quick win campaigns or something that you're doing with social media. Maybe you're trying to drive to demos, or you're doing something and maybe wrapping it around a regional event that's a one-off. I mean, those things you could do within a quarter, right? And make um and have some results show up, right? The GEO and the SEO stuff I think is longer term. Branding is longer term. Um, developing strong partnerships with technology partners and trying to get into ecosystems, I think that takes longer. But I mean, I feel like there's a ton of pressure I mean, you've heard it too, where, these people go in and they have a project and it's usually tied to pipeline. It's usually directly tied to pipeline. And there's usually a sales leader that's somewhat involved in the project as well. So I feel like that seems to be front and center. How do we drive pipeline? And we've got this AI thing over here. How do we use AI to accelerate, like, not only leads but opportunities? So I feel like that's the challenge. And then upskilling all these leaders so they're all on the same page. Um, and I think it's happening really fast. So that's kind of a long answer to what to what
Well,
you just asked, but
a follow-up to that, I guess, would be, when I speak to internal marketing teams and they're sort of on the fence about investing in things that could have an improvement in visibility in GEO because it's probabilistic, right? It's not like search where there's 10 blue links. Um, I'll usually ideate with them around, well, what are some things you should be doing anyway or are doing anyway that also have the potential to influence your visibility in
yeah,
GEO? And you mentioned events, right? And event activations. You mentioned partnerships with channel partners and such. And to the extent to which this throws off social media content or content that's published in various places, I mean, that stuff can help the pipeline in the short term, can provide the sales team with talking points and the kinds of things that they need, or even creating testimonials at events and recording them and utilizing them to help the sales team. That also creates content that gets ingested by Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and could influence your visibility. So I guess a good way of thinking about it is, what are the things you're doing anyway, and how do you squeeze earned media value out of it on top of the immediate, sales impact or sales pipeline impact.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to go back to what you were saying about GEO and the LLMs because I was talking to a person who's I think she's fairly well known in terms of websites and building sites. And what she told me is that she believes that companies need to start looking at their sites now, like this quarter ASAP, and look at your website and start prepping it for the LLM. So if you need to update pages, you have to incorporate more of these question answers. You need to get the content LLM friendly. Do it now because she says that in like 6 months to a year, everything's going to, the LLMs are going to change again. So getting in early and having your content prepped is great because things will shift again in terms of how the LLMs are grabbing all this content. So I feel like getting your site ready and your content ready now seems like a good thing because it's good for the short term and it's good for the long term. And if people are, I was reading an article and they were saying people are just using their, they're going into whatever they're using to gather research and they're going less to the website and they're using the LLMs to compile the content they need to compare vendors. So if that's happening, that means people are less on your site, but your content needs to be up in front and center and friendly enough for the LLM. So I would say that should be happening for every company right now,
For
even
sure. Yeah.
small companies, right? So I think that's one thing that you could do that will have a long-term impact. And I don't think SEO is going away. You still have to do those. You got to keep your keywords updated and all of that. And if you have someone in-house that can do it, great. Maybe you outsource it. But that I don't think those things are going to go away. I think they're just going to become more important.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
certainly the website is foundational, right?
yeah,
But what
yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize about the difference between GEO visibility and SEO visibility is you only make it up into a GEO result if there's consensus as to who you are, what you do, the problems you solve, and that
Right.
you're authoritative in that area and can actually do it. So you saying something about yourself that might actually work
Absolutely.
for SEO if your site has great authority. It does absolutely zero for GEO. I mean, because if everyone else is talking about different brands in Capterra, in G2, in Reddit, in industry trade publications, etc., that's where the confirmatory evidence comes from in a probabilistic model, right? So it's not just about the content on your site being in place. That's foundational, but it's the syndication model, right? In SEO, we used to call it the barnacle SEO, right? We used to call it, well, you even if you get number one position for what it is that you do or the problem that you solve, there's nine other blue links below you, right? And those,
Yes.
if they can also speak highly of you and you're mentioned in those articles or whatever, that was called Barnacle SEO. Oddly enough, the Barnacle SEO strategy actually works really well for GEO, right? Because it's you're
Hmm.
finding ways to reinforce your messaging out there in ways that can be spidered by the LLMs. So let's jump out to AI's impact on demand gen and marketers in general. That ranges from obviously everything from content creation and content ideation, but BDR and sales, having information at their fingertips and how that changes their roles and the way they do things. It's changing so fast. So I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah. So I think I know you and I talked about this on another call. I feel like AI is going to be the center of the GTM engine. And this means that there's going to be, I think, more of a spotlight on these processes in-house, like, your insights that you're pulling from your rev ops team, from your sales ops team, your predictive insights on deal flow and things like that. I think CEOs are going to go, well, hey, you guys have all these tools and we have AI, so why can't you make this decision faster, better, right? Easier, right? But in reality, just because you have the data that doesn't mean you're going to make the right choice if you're going to change, if you're going to make a change in how you're marketing or how you're selling. But I think from a BDR perspective, having those insights in real time will help them because these guys are like, they're in Gong or Outreach.io and they're pushing out their nurtures daily. And they need to know what customers are clicking on, how they're engaged. And if AI can help them do something faster and understand faster that, hey, this piece of content it's just bombing. We need to replace that with something else. It's going to, I think it will help augment their role and make them better in terms of understanding the customer so that when they have that phone call and they pick up the phone or they do the Zoom, they actually have all this insight on this prospect. So I think it's going to make the BDR's job easier and also the reps job easier because they're going to have all this data from the AI insights. So that's great. Um, for a demand leader, I think it's exactly what I said. Like if we have all these AI insights, then why can't we make faster decisions to fix campaigns? And I think we will be able to get the real-time insights. We could maybe fix a campaign or an ad in real time and get on track again. And I think there's going to be more pressure. So that, it's like, okay, well, you have all this, you've got your campaigns running, but now instead of waiting 2 quarters, you're getting insight like immediately. So therefore, shouldn't you have a better campaign? Question mark. Therefore, shouldn't we have more opportunities? So I think there's going to be a lot more pressure on demand and the BDRs in terms of opportunities and closing deals faster. Um, but you still need the human. I think we still need the human to be able to say, I have all these insights and this campaign is not working. What are we going to do instead? And I think as a result, it's going to force teams to actually be in person more and talk through this and engage and say, this is what the data is showing. This is what, the AI insights are telling us. Is this right? Because it could still not be correct. You still need a human to be able to look through and filter what's working and what's not and be able to say, I talked to my prospect and this is not, even though the data is showing this, that this is actually not real. So I think it's gonna require people to work together more. And you were talking about events. I think because there's so much content that we can develop through AI, let's say the BDR says, oh, they're not clicking on this. Okay, well, let's quickly pivot to this content and give it to the customer. Just because you can create it doesn't mean it's good content. So I think we're still going to have to rely on good product marketing, good technical leaders to be able to create documents that are authentic, that customers can trust, and that are believable. Because I think right now there's so much content that's being generated. People are like, is this real? Is it, you know what I mean? I think our prospects are not trusting everything they read right now because of we're saturated by too much content. So therefore, maybe an in-person discussion is the answer. Shaking someone's hand, going to an event, having coffee or breakfast with them, and really sitting down and talking about your problems and trying to figure out if this company can actually solve my problem. Excuse me. So I think maybe events will make a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing that. It did it with some of our clients that, when they go back, and of course, you can't use purely last click attribution, but when you try to look holistically at a campaign, the events seem to be, if the enough of the ICP is at an event, you sort of can't build trust more quickly than an in-person meeting. And that's something AI can't do is build trust. If anything, it erodes
Right.
trust. So it'll be really
And
interesting to see what happens
and,
with
and I
events.
I don't know if AI can detect whether your prospect believes you or not, or if the prospect is um, truly engaged. I think that's something that a marketer is going to have to look at the data, but also relying on sales. Hey, you guys are having these conversations. What do you think? What are they saying? So I think it's going to force some um, even more alignment with sales and marketing, which is great. Um, and I think it's also from a demand leader perspective because there's so many AI tools, we are being forced to upskill immediate. Like what is it Claude? What can you do in Claude? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? So I think there's I mean, I've been on some of these sessions where, um, and some leaders are really panicked, and then some are like, "Hey, I'm going to dig in and figure this out." But I think there's this sense that we all need to upskill and learn as much as we can about these tools so we can go back and be better marketers. I don't think anyone is saying this is going to take my job away, because I think you still need the expertise. If AI went away tomorrow, you still need to be able to, how do you market something? How do you create a marketing plan? How do you execute successfully? So I think you still kind of need you need to be able to have that expertise to understand what's working and what's not. And I don't know if AI can do that. It can't quite do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a really powerful tool in the tool chest. And I guess whether you think about it as a point solution tool, which some of them are, or you think about it as a really gigantic Swiss Army knife, like a Claude or a Gemini, or a ChatGPT, which is sort of a multi-purpose. We've certainly, even when building some of the stuff onto my incubator, like Voiceu, which is the AI-powered voicemail drop system that personalizes the voicemail drops to the individual. We put in the stuff, that we pull out of the CRM that should remind whoever's doing the dial that you met at CES, right? And you should reference that in the message that you leave. But in the end, right, it is that humanity. It's the fact that the person did in fact meet at CES, and just adding velocity to the way that you communicate, and leave messages. And it's a tool for the sales teams. It's a tool for the marketers, right? And they just have to
Right.
be careful that they don't overly rely on it, because in the end, especially when it comes down to a sale, right? A sale is made, between humans, or at least for the part of B2B, it's still mostly not agentic, although it may go agentic. But B2B sales, at higher price points, typically are still negotiated with two humans, and a trust that's built there, as well as all the fact that it's actually a good fit between the two companies.
Yeah, and I think I mean, you've seen these too, you probably get hundreds of emails that come in each week or to your in-mail from LinkedIn, and you can tell the ones that have been written out and were thoughtful about who you are and how to engage with you personally versus AI. And so I think that engagement, being able to understand that at the end of the day, you're trying to engage somebody, not force them to take your demo, go to your event or whatever. The whole idea is, I mean, I think really good marketers are concerned about engagement and how much are you consuming content and really looking at a company's solutions with problems that you have today, and
Yeah.
not in a forceful way, but in a way that's like, hey, these guys actually solve problems, like the problems I have, and therefore I'd like to have a conversation with them. So I think that engagement piece and being authentic still has to come through in those
Yeah,
reach
I,
outs.
I've gotten somewhere. I've had to look at them twice, right, to figure out, because a lot of them will crawl my entire persona and my
Yeah,
history and actually hyper personalize them. But I know that they're written by AI, because if when I read them, I'm like, okay, I don't know this. This person doesn't likely know me this well, right? And so it's still an AI
exactly.
generated message attempting to break through the clutter, and I give them credit because sometimes it does break through the clutter, um, but it typically doesn't result in the action that they want me to. Probably because I was not in their ICP to begin with, which I think is a problem that a lot of B2B marketers make, is like there's still a lot of spray and pray out there, right? If you really just took the extra time to identify the ICPs well, it would
Yeah.
really create much more of a win-win on the marketing side and for the sales teams, right? Because the sales team doesn't want to talk to somebody that's not in the ICP, and the marketing team doesn't want to spend budget against somebody that's not in the ICP. But one can be lazy, right? And sort of define the ICP too broadly. And if there's three different ICPs, they should probably get different messaging, right? And not
Yes.
just all the same. But there's a lot of laziness out there, or maybe it's not laziness. Maybe there's just too much responsibility on the person, And so it's not laziness, it's just the fact that they're working an 80-hour week. But in any case, it's better for for sales and marketing ecosystems when there's a fit between, the media, the message, the individual, all being, it adds relevance, right? I mean, advertising doesn't feel like advertising if it's relevant, and marketing messages don't feel like marketing messages if they're relevant. Same thing with sales messages. So I think we want to make sure that AI doesn't make the marketers and sales teams lazy, right? Just because
Yes.
they can do 5 times the volume per person of outreach, should they?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I 100% agree with you. You have to fix the ICP first. And I think it's okay to get it wrong. I've worked with startups where they're like, hey, this is our ICP and this is where we're going. And then 6 to 12 months later, they're like, those guys don't even care about my product. It's these guys. So I think it's okay to pivot, but I think you just have to remember that everything hinges on that ICP, your social media, I mean, you have a messaging platform, you've got your social, your emails, your ads, when you go to an event and how you present your company is all wrapped around that ICP. So if you're going to pivot, all those things have to change. Your
Yeah.
website, like, I mean, there's like, think about all those things. So, um, again, I think you can change it, but just think about all the things that you're going to have to change, even and if you're in a PLG focused company, your nurtures when you're turning people onto your product, all of that would change, right? Because now you're talking to a different ICP. So there's a lot to consider, and I would say you try to get it right the first time. And I think this is where product marketing can help, because product marketers are really good at building ICPs as well as, I mean, I've had to build them too, but they're very good about helping and giving you an understanding of why this product or this solution is really important for this ICP. And so I would say, partner with them or partner with um the technical folks if you're at a tech company. I mean, a
For
consumer,
sure.
whoever actually is understanding under the hood, like what is so special and unique about this product for this ICP and why someone would like it. Um, but yes, I agree with you. The ICP it's critical, right? That's like building a house, building the foundation of the house, the framework. Everything is built around the ICP.
So, what else should we be talking about? What has you excited about the next 6 months from projects you're working on, and maybe tools, technologies, or systems that you're finding yourself using more that are particularly helpful that people should have on their radar? Obviously, a lot of folks right now are thinking about Clawbot or whatever you want to call it, which is sort of the purely digital personal assistant. We've seen
Mhm.
some horror stories around those, as well as a few use cases where they seem to add value. But what are you excited about for the next 6 months?
Well, I'm excited about a lot. So I've been primarily using ChatGPT, but most recently I just started experimenting with Claude, and I've been really impressed on if you're at an enterprise company, there's different versions. I think there's the enterprise and then this co-working capability of Claude. I was it was like a working session with some other marketers last week, and I mean, it was incredible. He built out some slides in 20 minutes for his board meeting. He built out a persona deck, a pitch deck. He had a dashboard. You can create a dashboard for your BDRs in Claude. Like there's all these things that you can build that would take hours and weeks that I think is going to allow a lot of these startups and fast growing companies to move faster. So that's exciting to me is that, you and I could start something in 2 weeks and spin up dashboards and spin up a lot of things that we need to actually go out and talk to the market. That doesn't mean we'll succeed, but I think a lot of these things are going to enable these small businesses that are coming out of huge layoffs and what's happening in the market with people, you know, huge cuts. You have a lot of talented people in the market, and they are going, if they're not going fractional, maybe they're actually starting a company. And so I think that's exciting, is that all these tools can help you build things. So you've got Lovable can do a website for you. I've done a couple pages on Lovable. I mean, we can vibe code now. Um, we can build things on our own. We can start companies. All of these tools are accessible. So I think that's exciting, is just seeing this shift in how fast a company can just get launched, or a project. It could be a passion project that you have, a nonprofit you want to start, or something you want to do for e-marketing association. You can go build it and you're done. And then it's like, wow, I just did this on my own, and I didn't need, 3 people to do it. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, that for sure. I think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of companies. Thanks so much for joining me and talking about what's hot in the industry around and in marketing around
Yeah.
the transformation that we're all going through together.
Yep. It was great to be here. Thanks, Kevin. Have a great afternoon.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in the Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.